Good afternoon, welcome back to GardenWise Adventures. Today we're going to have another video in my series on landscape design, and we're going to talk about how to measure your property. Now there are several different ways to measure property, and we're going to go over all of them from the least accurate to the most accurate. So sit back and enjoy. Now before we get started and I show you the different tools that I use, if you are interested in doing a landscape design for yourself, I will have linked up here a playlist of different design videos that I have created, and I will also link a button where you can click and subscribe so that you don't miss any of my landscape design videos. So let's get started and I'll show you the tools that I have. Okay, so I have the first set of tools we're going to introduce. It's a standard tape measure, which is 35 feet long. Before you go out and start measuring with any tool, the first thing you need to do is go into Google Maps and print out a picture of your property. I have mine right here, and you'll be using that picture with any of the methods that I talk about when measuring your property. When you use a standard tape measure to measure a property, you're going to need two people to get the measuring done. It is not very accurate, but when measuring properties for landscape design, unless you're doing a lot of structures or you have easements, or there are regulations that talk about, how, like, for example, how far a fence can be away from a sidewalk. Other things are utility lines. Those are the only areas where you need to be really accurate. So this is not very accurate, but it will do in a pinch. Now I also have a 100-foot tape measure. This one is a little bit easier to use. If you don't have anybody to help you measure, you can actually use a stick, stake, whatever you have. These tape measures have a hole at the end that you can slide the stake through and measure the property. 100 foot helps a little bit more with the accuracy. The last tool, which is my favorite, and it's the one that I always use, is a measuring wheel. Now measuring wheels, they have a counter, that counts in feet on the bottom. It really helps with speed and it helps with accuracy. Now none of the methods, like I said, that I showed you are 100% accurate, especially if you have slopes on the property. Measuring on slopes requires a surveyor to help with that. Now if you're not putting a structure on the slope, which most of us should not be anyway, you don't really need to be too careful with the accuracy on that. And I'll show you kind of how I get the size of my property, even though I have a steep slope on it. So here we are at my computer, and I'm going to show you how to print a map of your property and how to measure your property using Google Maps. So first, you Google Maps, obviously, type in your address, and the first thing that pops up is the street view. Now the street view is not completely accurate. They've made this street really narrow. The street actually goes out to here. So if you would really like to see what your property looks like, click satellite. And this gives you a much more accurate view. Now if you want to print your property, you right click, click print. You can title it if you would like, and then click print again, and then you have a copy of your the map of your property, so you can write measurements on it. Now if you want to measure your property, you can measure the linear feet by finding a point. You can manipulate either side here. You can take them anywhere you want. See if we can try and line that up even though the trees are in the way. And right here it says we have almost 97 linear feet in the back. On corner properties, we're going to measure this side. I like to measure it square. So right there we have 120, almost 121 feet long. Now if you want to measure area, you can do the same thing. Just right click, measure distance, measure around the area, around the area that you want to get the area of. You can adjust any of your points here, make them match up to where you want. And right here it says we have about 21, almost 22,000, or sorry,
almost 2,200 square feet of lawn. Now, I do not trust measuring area using Google Maps. It's not completely accurate. If you need to go purchase something like mulch or sod, I would use a different method of measuring, the measuring tape or something, because that will give you a little more accurate view of how much you need to purchase. Okay, then you can just clear the measurement there, and that is how you print and measure your property. Now there is another way to measure your property, and that is to look up your county assessor's maps. Now I've pulled up 3 of them. I've pulled up, this one is Utah County with my home. There's Salt Lake and Davis, and they're each kind of different. Utah County, if you look along the edges of your property, they actually have the measurements out there for you. This is the back edge of my property. If you remember, I had measured my property to be almost 96, 97 linear feet with Google Maps. And right here it says it's 96.18 linear feet. So that was a very close measurement with Google Maps. If you go into the Salt Lake County assessors, they don't have the measurements on the map, but if you go up to this corner here, the top left corner, it says measurement tool. Click the measurement tool. The first one is area. The second one is distance, so I'm going to click distance. And then over here, there's a drop-down arrow, and it's on miles already. Let's just change it to feet. So then you can just click, your first area that where you want to start. Click your second point, double-click it, 110 feet. So you can measure the distance, area and the distance around your property with the Salt Lake County assessors. Now, the one that doesn't have as much functionality, but if you are having difficulty visualizing where your property lines are, the Davis County assessor will show you the property lines, but there is no measurement tool that I can find. Now, if you guys know how to use a measurement tool on the Davis County assessor site, let me know. So there's 2 different ways to measure your property, either Google Maps or your county assessor.
The last method I'd like to discuss is one that only professionals really use, and that's with drones. There are drones that can fly over property and give you extremely accurate measurements of the topography and the size. The last reason you would need any accuracy is to properly calculate exactly how much mulch you would need, how many plants you would need, how much turf you would need. Now, if you're doing it on your own, you don't really need to be completely accurate. I had to be accurate with my landscape maintenance company because I had to order and pay for the materials, and if I had overage or underage, it ended up costing more money for me in the long run. My methods tend to be a little more accurate than really actually needs to be. Thank you for coming along with me on this adventure, and if you have any questions about measuring properties or landscape designs, go ahead and put those down in the comments. And wait till next week. We're going to have another video, and this time we're going to talk about budgeting and how to plan for the expenses of your landscape design. So until that time, I hope you go have a wonderful garden adventure.